Welcome into the February 16th edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm DiStefano with David Morassutti. The Maple Leafs with a dominant win over the Blackhawks. Matthews returned in style. Let's get right to it, Dave. You listen to Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leafs-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. Also, we're up on YouTube. We got new content coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So hopefully sub up and we can provide you with all the Leafs information and content and analysis that you hopefully need. Like tonight, Dave, Maple Leafs, big dub. We called it. Must win. Had to be a dominating win coming off of Saturday's piss poor performance. I would say I would classify that as a dominant win.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there was times where the Blackhawks kind of kept it close, but at no point did I think the Blackhawks were going to win that game.
No, like there maybe was like when they made it 3-2, like around there, like there was that one stretch of maybe like 3 minutes where it was like, oh no, are we seeing the same thing here that we saw happen in Columbus, where the Blackhawks where they relinquished a 2-goal lead in the third period, but no, that one goal, and they said, okay, enough's enough, and kind of hunkered down, and next thing you knew, it was 5-2 again, and, you know, is what it is. From there on out, the Maple Leafs were golden.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to be on the other end of a Peter Mrazek brutal outing,
Well,
I will say.
yes. Would you say, like, I don't know, what do you think would be worse, though? Because at least Mrazek is playing, although that could be worse.
Yeah,
Well, there's no like when you look at it, Matt Murray and Peter Mrazek. Like, would you prefer to have one over the other? Like,
I take Matt Murray.
But he's not even playing for you.
I mean, Mrazek didn't play a lot either, though, when he was with the Leafs.
True, but he's playing now.
Yeah, but I think that's a very loose definition of playing, if considering how many goals and how he let the goals in tonight.
Yeah,
like,
he's not a very good goaltender. That was a swing and a miss by Kyle Dubas, and he did a good job of rectifying that problem, right? Only cost him, they moved back from like 25 to 38, so it cost him like 13 draft selections basically to move down. They didn't eat any of that contract, and there's still another year left on that deal. Like there's still a whole another season of tanking that Chicago gets to do with Peter Mrazek between the pipes. But Ilya Samsonov started tonight, another good home victory for Ilya Samsonov. So his strong home starts continue. But ultimately, like, this was a night for the big boys, where the big boys really showed up. Like, Matthews returned. He had a goal and a helper. He was really good. Marner was magical to the first bit of this game. Like, he had such a beautiful play that unfortunately the Kerfoot goal got called back, but the play he made to set that up was unbelievable. Like, legitimately magician-like, and like play of the year type candidacy, just the way that he was able to take that puck from the wall, dance around a couple of guys, nice little drag, and then get it over to Kerfoot for an open net. And unfortunately, spoiled by the video review, but is what it is. But like, yeah, these guys were dancing. And did I even mention that Willie had a 3-point night? Like, these guys are having a good one, man. It was a good night. Tavares scored. It was a good night for the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, you could not say anything really negative about the way that the core top six played. Really, even Kerfoot looked half decent at times. Like, that's kind of how you. I mean, it's also Chicago. Like, if you can't look good against Chicago, that
Yeah.
does. But I was very disappointed that that goal got called back just because the play was incredible. And like, I don't know, the Kerfoot like pissed somebody off in the hockey gods department of some like just the brutal luck this guy has.
Yeah, he's got one goal in his last 18. We were talking about it on yesterday's show and just saying this guy's got to produce. He basically said, "Hey, Mike, hey, Dave, up yours. Here's a goal." And the hockey god said, "No, no, 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 no. One goal in 19 games now, my friend." And it's unfortunate that that ended up getting taken back on him. But he did set up Tavares' goal. So, like, he was still very involved. He had a couple other really good chances. Like, Kerfoot, again, we got to take it with a grain of salt considering the competition in the Chicago Blackhawks. But he looked like the part of a top six player who could help, provide a little bit of offense with these two. Again, I want to see it against top tier talent, however, going forward. And not going to see that this weekend with Montreal and Chicago again. But, next week against Buffalo, how does that look against the Buffalo Sabres? That's where we'll probably get more of an idea of, how Kerfoot could look on that second line. I mean, it's not something that we haven't seen. We've seen it time and time again, but, how does it look now? You know what I mean? Like with Tavares and Marner playing at the level that they're at, can he come in and play a complementary role with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, some teams may want to see what Alex Kerfoot can do, right? Like, there might be teams that are looking at that if the Leafs are trying to trade Kerfoot as part of the package. You got to showcase him a little bit, right? You want to put him in a position where other teams are going to be like, oh, okay, like he's not as bad as maybe as some people think he is.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he's in a contract year too, right? So even like I don't see the Maple Leafs bringing him back next year. Like he's still playing for a contract for another team, so he wants to showcase himself as much as possible.
exactly.
Um, in terms of actually, before we move on to what we saw out of the Blackhawks tonight, I think a round of applause. 2 defensemen scored tonight. 2 defensemen, a team that is like 30th in the league in defensive scoring. You get 2 goals from D-men. Sandin, I mean, that one was, not a pretty goal, but like whatever. Sometimes you got to bank one off a defenseman and whatnot. But Timmins clapper through traffic, really nice looking goal by Timmins, and that's now 13 points in 19 games for Connor Timmins. You give this guy another look like Saturday? Like, do you keep him in the lineup? What do you do if you're Sheldon Keefe here?
I mean, it's kind of like all this guy does when you take him out of the lineup, he comes back in and he scores or he puts up points. Like it must be frustrating for him, but I thought he looked good. I think you have to reward a player when he has a decent game like that. So I think he should at least get one more game. There's gonna be a back-to-back. So you can just tell Justin Hall, like, look, you're gonna get one of these 2 games. Connor Timmins, you're gonna get one of these 2 games. Like that's how I would play it, but Sheldon Keefe has always kind of deviated a little bit from what we think he should do sometimes. But I mean, yeah, the guy scores in his first game back, and I think he looked solid defensively. So I think he deserves to at least get another look.
Yeah, a couple penalties. You don't like to see that, but when you score a goal, you can look past it a little bit, right?
One of the penalties I was like, yeah,
The high stick.
The high stick one, like, meh. It wasn't much, right? That's why.
It wasn't, but like optically, like I saw that. Like I saw it and I was like, oh, it's a high stick. Like I knew that was getting called. He tried to argue that it was a follow through from trying to like lift the stick or whatever. But when you looked at it on replay, it's like that's not what happened at all. Like I don't know what he was doing. I think he just, I don't know. It was a penalty, is what it is. But luckily, it didn't really cost him at the end of the day. And we'll see what ends up happening with Connor Timmins. But I thought that he played well tonight too. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's talk about some of the guys on the other team on the other side because we came into tonight saying we'll have our eyes on a couple of players for trade-related reasons. So I'm curious to see who you thought maybe stuck out to you on the other side who could be of service to the Maple Leafs, leading up to the trade deadline. So I'll get that answer from you in just a moment. We'll also do our 3 stars of the game as we do after each and every Maple Leafs victory. But before we get into all that, Dave, I got to tell the good folks listening to this podcast about one of our favorite sponsors, and that's FanDuel. It's the midway point of the NHL season. It's here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's North America's #1 sportsbook. And new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to the point scores, anything you want. Tonight, place the wager over 3.5 shots for John Tavares. It cashed in the first period. I think you end the night with 6, 7 shots on goal. So you can go and you can make wagers just like that. Leafs money line, all those stuff on the FanDuel app. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with the same game parlay. So don't miss out on a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Maple Leafs with a 5-2 win over the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Pretty dominant victory from start to finish. I would say at the very least, let's go with a 53 minutes performance. Maybe not full 60, but at least 53 of those minutes. I think Toronto was definitely the better team. And I think I saw the deserve to win-o-meter from moneypuck.com have at like 91%. So, all the numbers suggest that. And I think I looked the analytically, like in terms of expected goals, if you look at it at all strength, so through the full 60 minutes, 73% of the expected goals was in Toronto's favor. And obviously, as was the actual goals, as they won by a score of 5-2. So that's another indicator of the eye test and the numbers kind of matching up there, Dave, which is always fun to see. I like to see it for sure. All right. I'm curious to see, though, what your eyes told you about some of these Chicago Blackhawk players, because we came into, in yesterday's podcast, and if you missed it, we chatted about some of the players that we were going to be keeping an eye on for trade-related reasons. There's a lot of guys on Chicago that are going to be on the trade block in the leading up to the March 3rd trade deadline. And we were just, talking about some of the ones that we'd be keeping an eye on. So did anyone stick out to you that you said, you know what, maybe the Leafs could maybe swing a deal for that player?
Well, I mean, I just want to give a shout out to Connor Murphy and Jake McCabe for helping the Leafs win tonight. So
well, I think McCabe was terrible.
He wasn't. He wasn't great, in my opinion. Like, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't like this wasn't his best showcase, I will say, in terms of if you're looking at adding him at the we've heard his name a few times. Like, I don't know if I would be like, one game isn't going to totally dissuade me, but at the same time, I think like Engvall like turned him inside out, made him like fall at one point in the game. You're just like, I mean, Pierre's a good skater, so
a good skater, but yeah, to your point.
Yeah. But like, I just found it like the Connor Murphy tip was the better one, because I'm just like, buddy, I know you want to get out of Chicago, but like, can't be showing us you want to help the other team score. So yeah, and then obviously we're all looking at Patrick Kane tonight. Like, he was the guy that all eyes were on, and I thought
he was invisible. Like, I didn't think he really did anything tonight.
He had a couple of chances on net. He had that. There was one play on the power play where the Leafs were shorthanded. They were going for break, and he did a good job of kind of tying up. I can't remember who it was, but tying up the guy going to the net. But yeah, other than that, like, I just also just think like Chicago, as soon as they moved away from like the Brinket, you knew Patrick Kane was not going to be the same player. Like, he's trying to do it himself here, and I'm not surprised he didn't exactly light it up, because like he doesn't really have anybody else to help him there. Who's the guy playing on Patrick Kane's line that's going to help him at this point.
No, it's true, but you would hope that somebody with the stature of Patrick Kane can drive
Yeah.
offense production by himself, and maybe that's the problem is that he can't do that anymore. I think that's the ultimate question that people have about Kane, like what Patrick Kane are you getting? If it's the Patrick Kane that I saw tonight, that's not the same Patrick Kane that won Stanley Cups for Chicago. Like it's just flat out not. He didn't have nearly the pizzazz that we're used to seeing out of Patty Kane, right? Like with it, Showtime was not there tonight, right? That was afternoon brunch at best. Like Patty Kane's an interesting player. I think I said it yesterday. It'd be a luxury ad, but he's not the main piece that I'd be going after at the trade deadline. If you looked at his numbers tonight, played 18 minutes, was a -1 and had 4 shots on net. So, you didn't really do a whole lot. Didn't factor in onto the score sheet. Sam Lafferty factored in onto the score sheet.
Yeah,
Not the most beautiful goal, I would think he would say, but went hard to the net. And what happens when we go hard to the net? You get rewarded. I've always said, I think the Leafs need guys who are willing to go to the net, right?
Favorite tweet of the night was from Kevin Papetti. He said, so to recap the first 2 minutes of the game, Jake McCabe is now worth a conditional 7th. Sam Lafferty is worth 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was like we were a minute 3 into the game and it was 1-1. It was crazy.
Yeah.
The one player though who actually did kind of, I would say, stuck out to me, but I thought he had a pretty good game, and maybe it's nostalgia, but I thought Max Domi looked pretty good tonight. I thought that he had a couple opportunities. It looked like he was kind of flying out there a little bit. It looked like he was putting on a bit of a showcase, saying, "Hey guys, I can still play. Like I got jam, I got the speed and I believe that I could help you." And kind of like I said, was putting on a little bit of a audition, let's say, in front of the Toronto brass and Toronto fans. He had some flashes tonight, clearly through the ties with him and his father. But like, imagine if Max Domi came back and tossed on number 28. Like that doesn't entertain you at all.
I mean, I was gonna say if his name wasn't Domi, are we talking about it? But I mean, look, he's a guy that he brings kind of that bunting like attitude where he will get under his opponent's skin. I think he has better speed. He brings that speed element. He brings that tenacity that you're looking for. The good thing is his number 28 is not retired, so he could very well wear number 28 if he so choose. I actually don't even, is 28 even available right now?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has 28. Holmberg's got 29. I don't think anybody has 28.
So maybe somebody is leaving that one. Oh, sorry, Joey Anderson's wearing number 28. Sorry, Joey. I think
send him to the minors. Send him to the minors, and all of a sudden 28's available. I forgot about Joey Anderson.
Well, I mean, he only had the one chance on goal tonight. Like,
well, he's a very forgettable person on this roster. Like, let's be honest here. He's got 6 games that he's played so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the Leafs went out and got Max Domi at a pretty affordable cost, I wouldn't hate it.
Let me ask you this. Max Domi or Alex Kerfoot as your second line left winger?
Oh. I don't even know what Domi's numbers are like this year to really.
A lot better than Kerfoot, I can assure you that.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm taking Domi. But yeah, for sure. I'm just looking at him right now. The guy has 14 goals and 35 points.
Yes. Like, that's like people look at Max Domi because he didn't really do anything when he was in Columbus, but he's actually having a decent year. Now, granted, again, he's getting some pretty favorable minutes. He's playing with Patrick Kane, which probably helps, but if you're coming to the Leafs, you're playing with Tavares and Mitch Marner. So, like, if you're putting up that type of production with Kane, surely you could put up that type of production with Marner and Tavares. Not like you're getting a drop-off there in terms of talent that you're playing with, right?
And he had 6 points in 14 games with I totally forgot he was with the Hurricanes last year.
Yeah, he scored like 3 goals last year in the playoffs for him, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's won around in the playoffs. He's been on
around. I believe he was with them when they went to the Anderson trade already went down by then, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't with them when they went to the final.
No, he wasn't.
No, because Anderson played against Toronto. Right. Yes. So he was one guy who I looked at and I was like, of all the players that I was interested in, right? McCabe, Murphy, Patrick Kane, we'll throw Lafferty in there, and then Domi as kind of the fifth player on the Blackhawks that I've been kind of watching. He was the one who did stick out to me most.
Yeah, and I think he, if I'm not mistaken, was he the one that kind of drew the penalty at one point in the game? I think one of the Timmins penalties. I could be very wrong on this, but I know his game, he did stick out to me a bit more. He's actually not bad on the face. I don't know how many. He's actually pretty good on the faceoffs too. Actually, 55%. And
it's like you're realizing that Max Domi's actually a good player. Like,
you know what? Like I knew he was. I mean, look, this guy was a first round pick.
Dude, he had 73 points like 3 years ago.
This was back in 2019 with the Habs.
4 years ago?
Yeah. So 2018-19 was when he had 72 points in 82 games. But like, if you really think about it, his career trajectory, he went to probably the worst team you can go to, which was the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah.
He gets traded for Galchenyuk to Montreal. Turned into a productive player in Montreal. Just Montreal, he wasn't like high up in the lineup to really, command probably what would have probably maximized his potential. Then he gets shipped off to Columbus, which is probably another place not many players really excel at in terms of, showcasing themselves.
I thought you were going to say a place where not many people want to go. And I was going to say, unless your name's Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau or Erica Branson. Yeah, exactly.
Erica Branson. I mean, they gave that guy $16 million. I'm sure he said, "Where do I sign?" in 2 seconds for that one. I don't know anyone who was giving him that type of money. But anyway, continue.
But you know what? When it was brought up, when I think this, I think people were annoyed about because his name kept being brought up, and many were thinking this just because of the Ty Domi connection. But
you did up until 5 minutes ago too.
I know, but I mean, I didn't look deeply into his stats. That's my fault. That's just bad.
Right. That's what I mean. And that's what I find a lot of people are doing. The second that Max Domi's name get brought up, people think it's just nostalgia and nepotism. No, he's actually a decent player, and he brings kind of that grit, that assholeness that the Maple Leafs kind of want in their lineup and into their middle six.
You know what's funny? His second best season ever of his career in the NHL was his rookie season.
I could see that.
He was 6th in Calder voting that year. That was in 2015-16.
Well, it was McDavid, Panarin. That was a good year.
Yeah.
Draisaitl, I think, was a rookie that season.
Jack Eichel, Dylan Larkin.
Yeah.
That's a very tough rookie class to kind of stick out from, I will say.
Yeah. But I'd say he's a guy who, some intrigue there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If there was one player who maybe not rose his stock, but maybe jumped up to the top of the line for me when it comes to trade assets from Chicago, I think Domi might be that guy. Although I still have faith in both McCabe and Murphy. If they came to Toronto, I think that those would also be really good pickups, despite having tough games tonight. Patty Kane, though, I think his stock dropped. Like, there's a lot of talk about it with him coming to town, lots of talk about him coming to Toronto. And I thought that after the night he had today, maybe if you're like, oh, okay, I see the worry that the Rangers maybe had with that injury factoring into, a drop-off in his play, because that's kind of what it did look like tonight. This wasn't dynamic like it used to be.
So what we're saying is a conditional 6th round pick for Patrick Kane.
Whoa. No.
Okay.
I'll give a 4th.
Oh, okay.
I'll give a hard 4. Absolutely. In 2025? Yeah.
Okay.
2025.
No later, okay? We got to...
Okay, conditional. You can take it either a 3rd in 2024 or a 5th or 4th in 2025. That's what it is.
Okay, I'll allow that.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, we'll take one more quick break and we get back. Let's get to the 3 stars from tonight's game. So we'll do that when we return. You listen to Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Maple Leafs with a 5-2 win over the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. They officially jump back into second place in the Atlantic Division. They now have a 2-point lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning, but still sit 2 games ahead, which means in points percentage, I believe they're still actually down. But if you look at the standings by points themselves, they're currently in second place. But based off of tonight, big 5-2 butt kicking to the Chicago Blackhawks. It was expected, and they actually followed through. Despite being a team that is junk, they actually played them well, which we have not seen a whole lot of this year and in the last few years. Despite that, though, again, it was a big-time victory for the Maple Leafs. So let's get to our 3 stars from tonight's game. Dave, start with your 3rd star.
I'll give it to Mitch Marner. I thought he had a pretty good game. I think it was a toss-up between Marner and Tavares. I think both of them, probably as a duo, they were really good tonight.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. I figured you were going to give Marner some love, so I left him off mine, I'll be honest with you. I want to give some love to just the blue line. Like, in general, I thought that all 3 pairs looked pretty good tonight. And in particular, I guess that 3rd pair looked pretty good. They both scored goals, Sandin and Connor Timmins. It's nice to see getting some offense from the blue line, not something we typically see. And I thought that they did a pretty good job of limiting really anything in front of Samsonov. I think there was only 6 high danger chances against him tonight, all night, like in all situations. So they kept everything pretty perimeter, and you'll love to see it if you're Sheldon Keefe from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So when you keep things perimeter and you add 2 goals, yeah, you're gonna get a star. So I'm cheating. I'm giving it to the blue line. Your 2nd star, Dave.
I'll go with Auston Matthews. No, I mean, that did not look a guy who was, battling his way back from a knee injury. No rust. He comes out. He has a good game. He made Seth Jones look really, really bad tonight. Like the goal, the setup on the Timmins goal, like just robbed Seth Jones of the puck in his own end.
Yeah,
for great play.
Just straight up, thank you. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Also, we also got to highlight. I will do that next, actually, guaranteed.
Yeah, like his play was good. It kind of shows how different this team is when Auston Matthews is not in the lineup, because you see what he can provide and how much different this team is. There's a reason why Auston Matthews is the highest paid player on this team. He showed it tonight, so it was a really nice welcome back for the franchise player.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Auston Matthews. 1 goal, 1 assist, +3. 3 shots on goal, which unfortunately Dave and I were watching very closely, and it did not get to 4, which cost us a little bit of cha-ching, which is unfortunate. A hit and 2 blocks, only 16 minutes and 39 seconds of ice time tonight. So they kept it low-ish. They really spread out the ice time tonight, actually. Like, if you look at it, the 3rd line had like 15 or so minutes. The 4th line had about 13 minutes apiece. I think the top forward was Mitch Marner at 19:45, which is significantly less than the 28 minutes that he played against Columbus on Saturday. So nice when you get a victory like that against a team like that and you play the way you're supposed to play. You get a big lead. You can kind of give your big boys a bit of a rest and start to play some of your depth a little and get them some ice time. We saw that happen tonight. I also had Auston Matthews as my 2nd star, but I had William Nylander as my 1st star. Yeah. I assume you also did. He had a goal and 2 helpers, 3 shots on net in just 16 minutes and 15 seconds. So extremely, extremely efficient night for William Nylander. The one that I wanted to highlight, like we were just talking about the Connor Timmins goal. I mean, that's not a goal if it's not for William Nylander. Exactly. Hustling down the ice and just really strong on the forecheck. Kind of jars the puck loose, and allows Auston Matthews to pick the pocket of the defender to really set that play up. So William Nylander doesn't get on his high horse and hustle down on that forecheck and create the turnover in a way. I mean, that's not a goal. So he deserves a lot of credit for that one as well. So I want to make sure that he got some love, and he was all over the place tonight. He was skating really well, and I think him and Auston Matthews really do work well together. We talked about it yesterday, but having Willie and Auston together on the top pair or the top line, and then having Mitch and Tavares together on the second line really gives his team a strong 1-2 punch. And you saw it when they're all working well and they're all clicking. Means usually the team's gonna have a big night, just like they did tonight.
Yeah, I wonder how many Nylander haters, or those who were not fans of Nylander, were kind of, punching the ceiling after watching that effort on that goal. That was pretty much him, flat out just hustling it down the ice. Like
if they waited until game 50, game 55? I think we're at. I think tonight was the 55th game of the season. If they've only clued in 55 games into the year that William Nylander is a different player than he was in the past, they're not watching hockey.
No.
All right. So if you still are a Willie hater and you think he's lazy and he doesn't forecheck, he doesn't backcheck, and he doesn't do anything, and that he's a selfish player, come to the year 2023, because that's a 2020 take pre-COVID. This ain't the same guy.
No.
And tonight was just another instance of, him going all out and helping create offense out of it. Doesn't have to be coming off his stick. And that's the selflessness that's coming through his maturity as a player, right? I can do these things away from the puck, off the puck, and they still result in goals being scored while I'm on the ice. That's also a positive. Doesn't have to always come off my stick. As long as there's goals that are getting filled. And I think Willie, it's finally kind of got through to him. And you can see that based off of plays like that, right?
Yeah, he also had the fourth fastest opening goal in Leafs history.
Yeah, 9 seconds.
Mitch Marner is second on that list. And
so when we look at that goal, though, like, you remember last year, there was a couple times where Peter Mrazek, you're like, did this guy forget where the net is?
Yep.
Like, he forgot where the net was. Like, he fully thought that his skate was against the back post, didn't he?
We've seen that many times from him before.
And it's like, no, it's not. And I'm just going to tuck this puck right in here in this little tiny crease that you left because you lost your net. You don't know how deep it was, and you didn't get back far enough. Good. 9 seconds in, you're down 1-0 because of a stupid play like that.
Yeah. Saw that too many times. And thank you for that goal, Peter Mrazek, because it also put Nylander in same company as Auston Matthews and Phil Kessel, and John Tavares as the fourth Leaf player in the last 20 years to have 30 goals in 55 or fewer games.
Wow. That's our number one star right there. Yeah. Number one star, should have been an all-star. Still really upset that he wasn't given the recognition of being an all-star this year, because he definitely damn well deserved it. But that's old news now. We'll talk about. I mean, I don't know.
It's in the past.
It's in the past now. It's in the past now. We got to move forward. We got to move on. Honestly, we care more than he cares. That's the sad part.
That is the sad part.
I don't think he gives a damn that he wasn't there, because that just meant that he was able to do whatever the hell he wanted for a week, as opposed to
spend time with his dogs.
Spend time with his dogs. I think he was like in town for a majority of it, skating, which is also a good sign. That he just kind of kept skating and kept staying in shape. Kind of shows when you see a night like tonight where it's like, yeah, he was off for 10 days, played a couple games, but didn't really factor into, he still had quite a full tank out there. All right, pal. Let's wrap this thing up for tonight. Thank you everyone so much for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasting platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show at Locked On Leafs. Leave a like and a comment down below on if you're on YouTube. Which of the Blackhawks stood out to you, and would you be interested in any of them in a potential trade ahead of the March 3rd NHL trade deadline? Let us know in the comment section down below. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to tee up this weekend's back-to-back. Got Montreal, and I got Chicago again. So we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep locked right here on Locked On Leafs.